What is going on, y'all? Welcome back to another episode of the I Formation Podcast here with Ben Hall. In today's episode, I will be doing an NFC draft grades, similar to what I did last week with the AFC. Just going to go by division and kind of give a little bit more depth this week. Last week, I was kind of in a rush, but this week, I'll kind of bring up some current NFL stuff and some situations to kind of watch for with new rookies, maybe taking some guys' spots and stuff like that. But today, we'll start in the NFC East with the Dallas Cowboys, who I graded a B minus. In the first round, they took Mozzie Smith, the defensive tackle from Michigan. Second round, Luke Schoonmaker, tight end from Michigan. Third round, DeMarvion Overshawn, inside linebacker from Texas. Fourth round, Viliami Fehoko, defensive end from San Jose State. Fifth round, Asim Richards, offensive tackle from Texas. Sixth round, Eric Scott, cornerback from Southern Miss. Another sixth round pick, they took Deuce Vaughn, running back from Kansas State. And their seventh round pick, they took Jalen Brooks, a wide receiver from South Carolina. A lot of people kind of overreacted and didn't love the Mozzie Smith pick, but I think he's a strong addition to the defensive line, and we saw Micah Parsons' reaction, which is all you need to know. He has some versatility. He can play nose tackle or move a little bit and play the one tech. He's a great against the run. Complement the defensive line, like I said before. Micah Parsons' job will be much easier, as they've been talking about, just kind of keeping him as an edge rusher versus playing the linebacker that he was playing a little bit before, mixing around. But like I said, Parsons was excited because Parsons knows that's going to make his job way easier. Mozzie Smith's a grown man, gets to the backfield, shoves offensive lineman back, and he'll make everybody on that defensive line's job much easier. Schoonmaker will be the wide tight end for them. He's a good blocker, but has some pass catching ability. He'll fill in for Schultz as much as he can. He's got some versatility. And really, they just hope, he can kind of be close to what Schultz was. Schultz was very good, but Schultz got paid. Schultz also got hurt a pretty good amount there with Dallas. So I think it was time for them to part ways. And now my favorite pick for them, DeMarvion Overshawn. He was a freak athlete, some skills that you can't teach. He's got a great frame, will put some weight on the NFL because a lot of people are saying he's too small right now. He's an aggressive tackler, flashes to the ball with explosion, sideline to sideline tackler, has a high motor, which you love to see, especially nowadays. He used to be a DB. He was recruited to Texas as a DB, so he helped him very much so in coverage at the linebacker position, can guard tight ends, can guard running backs. And I think he'll be making an impact day one there. Cowboys have had some injuries in middle linebacker, and guys like Jalen Smith just never really panned out there. I think Overshawn will be their inside linebacker for the future, and he'll make a ton of plays there. Other next pick in Fehoko. He's got good size, good motor, could develop to be a good edge rusher. Kind of a depth piece right now, just what they have, but Fehoko could end up being a pretty good edge rusher in Dallas in the next few years. I wouldn't expect him to have a big impact in his first year. And then lastly, the last pick I want to talk about, Deuce Vaughn is a monster and he has an awesome story, but he's much more than that. I think a lot of people have kind of focused on him because of that story that came out, but he's a speed back with a ton of versatility and draws comparisons to Darren Sproles, which is a really good comparison for him. Could return punts, could return kicks. Very, very good pass catcher and runs the ball hard and is very fast, has home run speed. So I really like that pick for them, especially in the sixth round where doesn't hurt to take a shot. Next team, the New York Giants. In the first round, they took Deontay Banks, cornerback from Maryland. Second round, they took John Michael Schmitz, center from Minnesota. Third round, they took Jalen Hyatt, wide receiver from Tennessee. Fifth round, they took Eric Gray, running back from Oklahoma. Sixth round, they took Trey Hawkins, cornerback from Old Dominion. Seventh round, they took Jordan Riley, defensive tackle from Oregon. And their other seventh round pick, they took Javarius Owens, safety from Houston. Banks is the physical corner who plays with tons of confidence, watching Maryland all the time. You could see he was one of the best players on the field whenever he was out there from his sophomore year on. He's got really, really good length. And like I said, physical, confident, and likes the big matchup, which is really big for the cornerback position, especially in the NFL nowadays. Injuries were the only scare with him as he was banged up a lot in college. But like I said, when he was on the field, he's one of the best players out there. He's got good length, like I said, which is kind of similar to Tariq Woolen. But yeah, I think he's going to be a number one corner there, and they could really use that. I think Wink Martindale loved that pick. There's a NFL Films video of him saying he was scared the Ravens were going to take him because he's kind of a Ravens corner with that physicality. But Ravens took receiver and Banks fell to the Giants instead, which was a great pick for them. Smits will be the day one starter for the Giants at center. Filled a good need there. Doesn't have a ton of quickness, but makes up for it with his awareness and IQ. And you don't always need a center to be extremely quick. Very good in the run and the pass and likes to finish his blocks. Now, my favorite pick of the draft for them, Jalen Hyatt, is extremely underrated and has a chance to flourish in New York. A lot of injuries and kind of quiet name receivers there. Hyatt has a chance to be a big name, has a great burst off the line of scrimmage and moves crazy for somebody with his, height and length. He can stretch the field, gives the Giants a downfield threat day one, especially with his size. They're going to throw jump balls to him. Daniel Jones has got to extend the field, throw the ball down the field to him and see what he can do. And I think Hyatt will make plays. He tracks the ball well and he has better hands than he showed at the combine. He had more drops than almost anybody at the combine, which kind of drew some concern. But like I said, he's got better hands than that. And Could have just been a big show thing and just a little bit of struggles that scare people, but I wouldn't be too worried about it. Much better blocker than he gets credit for. People say because he's so skinny and his frame that, they sleep on him and don't think he's as aggressive as he is, but blocks hard and showed that at Tennessee. Like I said, he plays hard, gives a ton of effort, and he gets criticized for his route tree at Tennessee, but that's out of his control. That's just kind of the offense Tennessee runs, and there's nothing he could do to change that. He's been outspoken that he can run routes and is ready to prove many wrong. I love that for him. I love that for the Giants. I think that's a great pick by them. And I give them a B+ just because I really love their draft as a whole. Eric Gray's a good running back from Oklahoma. Put on a ton of good games in the Big 12 there. And like I said, Banks will be a day one starter. Michael Smith will be a day one starter. And I think Jalen Hyde will be on the field early on in his career. So really love the draft for the Giants. And I gave them a B+. Building off of the year they had last year, I think Brian Daboll will only go up from where he was before. For the Eagles, I gave them a B. First round, they took Jalen Carter, defensive tackle from Georgia, and they also took Nolan Smith, outside linebacker from Georgia. Third round, they took Tyler Steen, the offensive tackle from Alabama. Third round, they also took Sidney Brown, safety from Illinois. Fourth round, they took Kelly Ringo, cornerback from Georgia. Sixth round, they took Tanner McKee, quarterback from Stanford. And the seventh round, they took Moro Ojamo, defensive end from Texas. Carter was one of the most talented players, in the draft. Has to mature a little bit in the NFL, and we've kind of seen a lot of maturity issues, which is why a lot of teams were scared, and I think he fell to where he did to the Eagles. Nolan Smith was a shocker to see him last until their pick, but injuries hurt him a lot in college. That's kind of scared some people, but he sets the edge well when he's on the field, and that's a good pick if he can, stay healthy in the NFL. Tyler Steen is a great pick, and we'll move to guard for them. There's a lot of questions about, his shorter arms, but fits better inside, and with his smaller arms, inside will be very good as a guard. He's a tough blocker, played with Vanderbilt and Alabama in his career, transferred to Alabama after a few years at Vanderbilt. Ton of upside. I think he'll be a starting guard there. They lost two guys on their offensive line, and he'll immediately come in and be a starter. Played in the SEC, played against good football teams, good defensive linemen. So I think he'll fit in well in Philadelphia, and they finally found them, a guard from this offseason, which with the two that they lost. Sidney Brown has a ton of upside and plays at his best when he's in the box. He's quick with a high motor, always wants to make a play. And, he's really good, just like his brother, Chase Brown, who was the running back at Illinois. Illinois' defense was great this year, and he was a big reason for it. He'll fit better playing near the line of scrimmage, kind of like I said, but he'll push to get on the field. They signed Terrell Edmonds, which doesn't help him, but being a third-round pick, they have high hopes for him, and I think he'll get on the field pretty early on. Kelly Ringo was their fourth-round pick, and everybody was kind of drooling when they drafted him where they got him, but there's a reason he fell that far. A lot of teams passed on him, and it wasn't by accident. He's a physical, strong cornerback, but he's just doesn't have the change of direction speed, and kind of got burnt a lot in college, a lot more than people kind of saw. So that's a fine pick there. In the fourth round, you can't always go wrong, but I just don't think that should have gotten the hype that it did with everybody watching the draft. So I gave him a B. Got three defensive players from Georgia, which is never wrong, and you can never go wrong. And also an offensive lineman from Alabama. I think they did well in the draft, but I think people kind of pushed it a little bit too far than how well they really did. And then the last team in the NFC East, the Washington Commanders, I gave them a C+. I could give them a C. Just kind of a odd draft for them. Emmanuel Forbes, first-round pick, cornerback from Mississippi State. Second round, they took Jartavius Martin, safety from Illinois. Third round, they took Ricky Stromberg, center from Arkansas. Fourth round, they took Braden Daniels, offensive guard from Utah. Fifth round, they took KJ Henry, defensive end from Clemson. Sixth round, they took Chris Rodriguez Jr., running back from Kentucky. And in the seventh round, they took Andre Jones, outside linebacker from Louisiana. Forbes is a dog at the cornerback position, but I was surprised to see them draft him as early as they did. I guess take the guy that you want, but I didn't think he was going to be taken higher than Christian Gonzalez and guys like that. He's got good length, good speed. Very, very good at reading the quarterback, and showed that in all 3 years at Mississippi State. 14 picks through 3 years, and that doesn't just happen. Very, very good, like I said, at reading the quarterback, sniffing plays out, and making good breaks on the ball. Comes up. Like I said, 14 picks in 3 years is insane, especially in college, and that doesn't just happen. A few picks, you can say, oh, he got lucky. This dude's around the ball, and he always is. That's a good pick for them. Like I said, could have been a little bit early, but you take your guy you want. Thought they could have traded back maybe, but take the guy that you want, and they got him. Jartavius Martin is a versatile safety, played a major role in that stellar Illinois defense this year. The defense was incredible all year. Martin made a ton of plays for them. He's a good tackler, can really do it all. And I think the Commanders are trying to continue to take step forwards in that secondary like they did last year from the year before. 2 years ago, they were the worst team against the pass. And last year, they took a little bit of a step forward. This year, getting two good defensive backs will help push them even farther forward than they were. Stromberg is a nasty center who will start there early in his career, moves well for his size. Really like that pick by them. I think they needed a mean, nasty center to get. And if he's not playing on day one, I would assume he'll be starting at some point this year. Moving to Braden Daniels, the offensive guard they took from Utah, one of the fastest offensive linemen at the combine, which helped boost his stock. Played at Utah, who was very, very good offensively over the past few years. So with his versatility on the offensive line, I think that's a good pick for them. KJ Henry from Clemson, very good against the run, and he's a strong edge rusher. He's going to have to improve against the pass, but has some good traits that they can kind of build off of in Washington, and taking him in the 5th round. I mean, good pick there. My favorite pick by them was Chris Rodriguez in the 6th round. A lot of people thought he was going to go earlier than he did over the past few years, but dropped a little bit. The DUI didn't help. He got suspended at Kentucky this year, but he's a strong runner, bounces off tackles, can make plays. They describe him as running with an attitude and some physicality. Not easy to prepare for. Defensive players just kind of bounce. He bounces right off of him, runs them over, loves contact, and he runs like a bulldog and just really tough to tackle. He runs low, put his shoulder right into your chest and run you right over. And that's why I think he will get a lot of carries at the goal line. He's kind of similar to Brian Robinson, but with the way that stuff's been going there, even though it's a crowded backfield, Gibson's role went down last year. And I think that Brian Robinson and Rodriguez could be the backfield of the future for them. He had some questions about his pass catching ability, but everything I've seen from him shows him as a 3-down back. So I really love that pick for them. And I think it's underrated to kind of where they are with their team. Because you have Gibson, I think a lot of people don't see Rodriguez getting on the field. But with what Rodriguez did at Kentucky, I think that's a good pick for them. And that's why I gave them a C+. It could have been worse, but I think they got a future starter in the 6th round and good center, good safety from Illinois. And then, like I said, it's a good corner. I like Forbes. It's just, I think they could have waited a little bit longer to take him. Now, moving to the NFC North, I gave the Chicago Bears a B. In the 1st round, they took Darnell Wright, offensive tackle from Tennessee. 2nd round, they took Javon Dexter, defensive tackle from Florida. 3rd round, they took Tyreek Stevenson, cornerback from Miami. Actually, no, sorry, that was a 2nd round pick. 3rd round, they took Zach Pickens, defensive tackle from South Carolina. 4th round, they took Roshan Johnson, running back from Texas. 4th round, they also took Tyler Scott, wide receiver from Cincinnati. 5th round, they took Noah Sewell, inside linebacker from Oregon. 5th round, they also took Terrell Smith, cornerback from Minnesota. 7th round, they took Travis Bell, defensive tackle from Kennesaw State. And in the 7th round, they also took Kendall Williamson, cornerback from Stanford. Wright will be the immediate starting right tackle for the Bears. He'll give Fields a ton of protection, which is needed with the offensive line that they had years before. Wasn't the flashy pick, but he makes their team that much better. He's a mean blocker, doesn't get overpowered. And like I said, very strong, finishes his blocks, and will keep Fields protected, which is needed. Fields had to love this 1st-round pick for them. Taking a right tackle at 10 is not the greatest thing, but really like this pick for them. And he will have Fields protected all year. Fields will not get touched much from the right tackle position. And this is what you need. So I really like what Poles did there. Next, they took Javon Dexter, who's stellar against the run. Chicago needs that as they had the 2nd worst run defense in the NFL, which is why they also took Pickens, who's also a defensive tackle, but this one's from South Carolina. A solid 3-tech rusher who can get in the backfield. Will be a solid interior rusher in the NFL and will likely start this season. Him and Dexter in the first 3 rounds is very good for them. Also took Stevenson, who's a tough physical corner, press corner from Miami. Can blow plays up in the run game, comes up, but has to be better at finishing tackles, kind of just throws shoulder into people and tries to overpower them, but won't be able to do that in the NFL. Like I said, very good in press corner. Will help them a ton, and that defense got much better with this draft, while the offense also got better. Justin Fields is a true franchise quarterback in the NFL, and getting him protection was important. They did that with Wright. Then they added to their defensive line, which was needed. Like I said, 2nd worst run defense in the NFL with the other guys. And then also they get Roshan Johnson, who honestly could be a starter on day one. Didn't get as much hype as he should have because he played alongside Bijan Robinson, but Bijan Robinson's generational. Johnson's a very good back, well-balanced runner with strong power. Smart running back who kind of runs with patience, similar to what Le'Veon Bell used to do. Finds the hole, goes there. And with this offensive line slowly getting better, I really think Johnson will thrive. And alongside Justin Fields, I think Johnson can blow up, similar to how running backs do with Lamar Jackson. Fields is just so hard to stop running the ball. Teams are going to go all to stop him, which will open up the field for Johnson. Johnson also will be able to make some plays in the passing game as he is a 3-down running back. So it'll be interesting to see how he fits into that offense as the offense is slowly improving. And I think the Bears are not a team people should be sleeping on this year. Like I said, great quarterback. Justin Fields gets disrespected for no reason. It's crazy. But I think that he's going to lead them to some good wins this year. Maybe not the playoffs, but next year or 2 years, they could be in the playoffs pretty consistently. Next, I gave the Detroit Lions a B+. They took Jahmyr Gibbs in the first round, running back from Alabama. Jack Campbell also in the first round, linebacker from Iowa. Sam Laporta, tight end from Iowa in the second round. Brian Branch, safety from Alabama in the second round. Hendon Hooker, quarterback from Tennessee in the third round. Broderick Martin, defensive tackle from Western Kentucky in the third round. Colby Sorsdale, offensive tackle from William & Mary in the fifth round. And Antoine Green, wide receiver from UNC in the seventh round. Everybody overreacted to the Lions draft, in my opinion. I thought they did a great job and added some very good pieces. Gibbs is a star running back who in a few years, when he's playing as good as I think he will, people will look back and say, oh, that was a great draft pick by them. But everybody was kind of critiquing it because they already had Swift, who they already have now traded. Clearly, they didn't think Swift was going to be a part of the team this year or he wanted a trade. So taking Gibbs there, I think is a great pick for them. Gibbs flew up the draft boards on draft day. And he'll make Jared Goff's job way easier. Very talented runner. Also stellar in the passing game. Showed that at Alabama. Showed it at Georgia Tech before going to Alabama. And I love this pick for them. Maybe could have got him a little bit later, but like I said, he was flying up draft boards, so who really knows? They got their guy. He's going to be the future at their running back position, and watch out for him this year because I think he's going to make a ton of plays. They then took Campbell, also in the first round, the linebacker who everybody thought would last till the second round, but he's another player who people were saying was flying up the draft boards. He's exactly what head coach Dan Campbell preaches in terms of the gritty player. Very good with awareness, has great awareness, and he's a willing tackler. Led the Iowa tough defense this season. Iowa was very good on defense, and if their offense could have been at least subpar, they would have been a way better team. I think Campbell will step in and make plays, get in the backfield, and in a tough division, which has gotten easier over the past few years. I think he's very, very good for the Lions, and the Lions are going to make a playoff run this year, mark my words, and he will be a huge reason of it, and it's another pick that people are going to look back and say, wow, that was a great pick by them, but right now everybody's trying to critique it. Laporta's a beast. I love that pick by them as well. Tight end from Iowa. Great route runner with plus speed for a tight end. Great ability after the catch. He's not a great blocker, but does a good job pulling with his speed. He'll be their starting tight end this year, and he'll fill in for TJ Hawkinson, who they traded in the middle of last year. Iowa tight ends produce in the NFL, and I think Laporta is the next Hall of Fame tight end probably that we'll see from Iowa. Brian Branch could be the steal of the draft where they got him in the second round. Everybody expected him to be a first-round pick. If you would have looked back at this draft and said that they got Jahmyr Gibbs, Campbell, Laporta, and Brian Branch in the first two rounds with all their 4 picks, people would have told you were lying, I think. It was shocking to see him available there. He's a great cover safety who gives the Lions some versatility at the position. He can play nickel or free safety. Doesn't have great size, but does finish the job. Tough tackler. Like I said, not great size, but can get around blocks, move around them, and makes plays. I also love them getting Hendon Hooker, who I think could take over as a starting quarterback in the next few years. Obviously, he's coming off injury, but I don't think Jared Goff will be their guy forever. He has some upside. He throws the ball really well, good zip on his throws. He's accurate, and he leads receivers for yards after catch. I think he did that well at Tennessee. Didn't turn the ball over much at all. He's a good athlete. Like I said, good decision-making, didn't overdo stuff. He struggled a little bit with pressure, kind of forced throws out of bounds, got sacked a lot. But this injury could be a scare. I still think he'll move well after it. Very athletic, and he's a good quarterback. I like what they did there. Moving on to the Broderick Martin pick. Great size, long arms, likely the future at their nose tackle position. He can clog holes, lack some speed, but he'll stop the run for them, and I think he'll be good there. And then lastly, the green pick, wide receiver from North Carolina. He put up decent numbers at North Carolina and made big plays constantly alongside in Josh Downs. I like that pick there. I think, there's some upside there. Wide receiver room is going to be banged up early with all the suspensions, stuff like that. So it'll be interesting to see what he does early on, if he does play early on. But I think pick for the future, as late as they took him, anything could happen there. Moving on to the Green Bay Packers, who I really like what they did with their draft. I give them a B+ as well. Lucas Van Ness, defensive tackle from Iowa in the first round. Luke Musgrave, tight end from Oregon State in the second round. Jaden Reed, wide receiver from Michigan State in the second round. Tucker Kraft, tight end from South Dakota State in the third round. Colby Wooden, defensive tackle from Auburn in the fourth round. Sean Clifford, quarterback from Penn State in the fifth round. Dontavius Wicks, Virginia wide receiver in the fifth round. Carl Brooks, defensive end from Bowling Green in the sixth round. Anders Carlson, kicker from Auburn in the sixth round. Carrington Valentine, cornerback from Kentucky in the seventh round. Lou Nichols, running back from Central Michigan in the seventh round. Anthony Johnson, safety from Iowa State in the seventh round. And Grant DeBose, wide receiver from Charlotte in the seventh round. At the time of the Van Ness pick, I didn't love it. He is a true pass rusher, though, and looking back at some of his film, I don't hate that pick for them. He's a very good player. Wasn't on the field for a lot of rushing downs for Iowa, so he needs to improve a lot against the run because they're going to need him on the field a lot, taking him as a first-round pick. But showed really, really well rushing the passer. He's got great size and speed. And like I said, he's going to have to improve a little bit against the run, and he'll also need to improve with some pass rushing moves. I just think it was kind of easy for him to do what he did in college, and he's not going to be able to get away with some of that stuff in the NFL. Facing better offensive linemen, stronger offensive lineman. So that'll be interesting to see, kind of how his development goes in Green Bay. I think Musgrave was a great pick for them. He has versatility as he can play on the line or in the slot. He missed most of last season with a season-ending knee injury, but he's got good speed and will be a vertical threat for Green Bay. Losing Tanyan hurts them, but they added two very, very good tight ends in this draft, which I'll talk about Kraft in a second. Jaden Reed's an underrated pick. Crisp route runner, prototypical slot receiver, tracks the ball well and can stretch the field, gives them something they don't have right now, and will add to that wide receiver room, which is very young and has a chance to be very good over the next few years. People are sleeping on that room because there's a lot of young guys, but there's a lot of guys who have shown promise and I think can be good in the future. Now to talk about Kraft. Kraft is a hybrid tight end who has the versatility to do many things for the Packers offense, and he plays on special teams very well. On offense, he can play outside or slot receiver or inline or wing tight end. He can do it all. Reliable pass catcher who will fight for the ball if the ball's thrown his way. Really good speed for as big and strong as he is, and is hard to bring down. Major yards after catch. In college, didn't play as good of competition, but still was hard to take down and will continue to run once he had some contact on him, kept going, and fought through a lot of tackles. He's a very good blocker and will block until the whistle, which you like to see in your tight end. Mean tight end, and he can do it all, like I said before. He's smooth with the speed. He's not a stellar route runner, but he can improve in the NFL, but he does well, will be well, and will be very good for them. I think him and Musgrave will be two starting tight ends for Green Bay this year, and I love what they did there. DeBose is a tough wide receiver. That was my last pick I want to talk about for them. Grant DeBose, he's a tough, physical, strong wide receiver who they thought could go to the transfer portal. He entered his name in the portal, and instead of transferring, he just entered the NFL draft. He makes plays across the middle of the field. He has the ability to catch the 50-50 ball and is a true competitor. Smooth, plays with good balance, wants the ball, wants it thrown his way. He's got great ball skills. He's a good route runner, like I said. And he doesn't have the breakaway speed, but he will give you consistency at the wide receiver position. Should have gotten drafted higher than the 7th round, but didn't happen. I love that for them. And he adds to a great wide receiver room, like I said before, which a lot of people are sleeping on. No stars there, but there are a lot of young talents that could end up being very, very good in the NFL in the next few years. And I think he'll be higher up on the depth chart than many people think. But kind of speaking on Green Bay, I wanted to talk about this just because we're talking about Green Bay real quick. Can Jordan Love have some success this year in Green Bay? I think they're going to be more successful this year than they were last year. Jordan Love is going to be better than many people think. Coming out of college, he had a lot of things people wanted in a quarterback. Throws a great ball with some zip on it. Good pocket presence, very mobile. Defenses struggle finishing sacks around him because he's so athletic and can get around that. The negatives were reading defenses, decision-making, field vision, and moving coverages with his eyes. All those negatives are very easy to improve on when you spend 2 years in the NFL as a backup to Aaron Rodgers, who's been one of the best quarterbacks in the NFL for the past decade. Spent 2 years as the backup. I think he'll take a major unexpected step forward this year for them. I think he will lead this team to be competitive in the division, which a lot of people think they won't. They already have Christian Watson and Romeo Doubs. The offensive line's decent. They have a question at right tackle, but aside from that, they're very good. And I think they're top 10 offensive line in the NFL. You go out and draft 3 day 2 picks that will likely have a big impact on this offense, and Luke Musgrave, Tucker Kraft, and Jaden Reed. DeBose, like I said before, is not far down on that depth chart. So I think this offense can be very good this year and very underrated. Like I said, I really like the quarterback. He has some maturity issues also coming out of college, but spending 2 years in the NFL, you haven't heard much about him. So I like that a lot. And they also have a good backfield for him. Aaron Jones and A.J. Dillon will flourish with Love's ability to run and his mobility. I really like I said, I really like what they have going for them this year. Not sure if they'll make the playoffs, but they will surprise some people and win games a lot of people don't think they will. I think they'll, whatever their win total is, I'll have to look after this episode, but I would take the over on it. I think it's going to be very low because people think they're going to struggle. But I think, honestly, this is kind of tough to say. I think Jordan Love will do better with this Packers offense than Aaron Rodgers did last year. Rodgers felt checked out to me. I don't think Jordan Love's a better quarterback at all. Like, that's not what I'm trying to say here. But I think with this offense, Jordan Love will do better, and it'll be interesting to see how they do this year. Moving on to the Minnesota Vikings draft, I gave them a C. They took Jordan Addison, wide receiver from USC in the first round, Mekhi Blackman, cornerback from USC in the third round, Jay Ward, safety from LSU in the fourth round, Jacqueline Roy, defensive tackle from LSU in the fifth round, Jaron Hall, quarterback from BYU in the fifth round, Dwayne McBride, running back from UAB in the seventh round. Addison might have been the best fit in terms of wide receiver in this NFL draft, as he'll immediately be the wide receiver 2 in Minnesota, just because a lot of the teams who took wide receivers already have decent wide receivers there. They have Justin Jefferson, and after him, it's really nothing else. I think he'll immediately be wide receiver 2 there. He's a good route runner. He just makes plays, shows some good adjustment on any of the balls thrown his way, And everywhere he was in college, in Pittsburgh with Kenny Pickett and in USC with Caleb Williams, just made plays and was stellar. I think that's a good pick for them. And like I said, he'll immediately be the wide receiver 2 there. Mekhi Blackman has good speed, plays physical. His size is what scared some teams, but he could struggle against some of the bigger receivers in the NFL. But I think his physicality will help him there. Still will have to be a little bit tougher, just because receivers are going to be way bigger in the NFL than they were in college. And I just think his physicality will help, but who knows how much it'll help. And he'll also have to be careful. Picking up pass interference calls, had a lot of calls on him at the college level. And because he's so physical, NFL refs, that anybody who watches the NFL knows, love throwing the flag on the play. So it'll be interesting to see what he does, but I think that could be a good pick for them. And maybe will be a little bit of time before he's as good as he is. But the Vikings were horrible against the pass last year, and hopefully Blackman can come in and change some things there. Jay Ward at LSU played really well around the line of scrimmage. Will have to stay there in the NFL, and it'll be interesting to see. I think he's a depth piece right now, but it'll be interesting to see what they do with him. And then Jacqueline Roy, ton of strength, push offensive lineman out of the way, but he's going to have to get quicker. Very, very big. He'll probably slim down a little bit in the NFL, but very good against the run, can clog holes, and I like that pick for them. Now, moving to the NFC South, I gave the Atlanta Falcons a B-. On the first round, they took Bijan Robinson, running back from Texas. Second round, Matthew Bergeron, offensive guard from Syracuse. Third round, Zach Harrison, defensive end from Ohio State. Fourth round, Clark Phillips, cornerback from Utah. Seventh round, they took DeMarco Hellams, safety from Alabama. And in the seventh round, they took Jovan Gwynn, offensive guard from South Carolina. Bijan Robinson is one of the best running backs that I can remember being alive for in terms of kind of hype and prospects. He's patient, good balance, hard to get down, and will battle for extra yards. He's a good pass catcher, solid running back who I think could be a top 5 running back in the NFL in the next 2 years. Honestly, I think he's that good. And this hype is serious. I'm not just saying that just because it's there. I mean, he's legitimately that good. Bergeron's a solid pick. He's a tough offensive lineman, very good in the run and passing game. Blocks until the whistle, ton of versatility on the offensive line. And I think he could be a starting offensive lineman there very shortly with their offensive line struggles. And then moving on to Zach Harrison. Harrison has a ton of upside, as many think his game will transfer well to the NFL. Great size and length at the defensive end position, gets pushed into the backfield and has a high motor, gets after the play. And another guy who plays through the whistle. Good tackler, have to get a little bit better, but like I said, they think his game will transfer well into the NFL. And now my favorite pick for them, Clark Phillips, defensive player of the year in the Pac-12 and a unanimous All-American. Getting him in the fourth round is such a steal to me. People talk about his size, but he plays much bigger than that. He'll match up with any and every receiver that they ask him to. Great ball skills, knows where to be, high IQ. He's a natural cover corner, and he loves competition. That's why he has the success that he does. You can tell when he's on the field. Very, very much enjoys it. Very good corner. Like I said, I'm a huge fan of his, and seeing him fall to the fourth round is crazy to me after I feel like just 2 months ago, we were talking about him maybe being a first-round pick and one of the top corners off the board. Size, I think, was the reason that he dropped, but like I said, he plays bigger than he is. Very good corner and kind of earned that and showed that this year as he was the defense player of the year in the Pac-12 and unanimous All-American. Next team, the Carolina Panthers, I gave them a B-. Bryce Young with the first overall pick of the NFL draft, quarterback from Alabama. Jonathan Mingo was their second-round pick, wide receiver from Ole Miss. DJ Johnson was their third-round pick, outside linebacker from Oregon. Chandler Zavala was their fourth-round pick, offensive guard from NC State, and Jamie Robinson was their fifth-round pick, safety from Florida State. My question is, which quarterback you guys would take if you had the number 1 pick in the NFL draft? I would say CJ Stroud. He was my QB1 in this draft. Young had some very stellar skills, but I think Stroud is the better quarterback, and I would take him any day of the week. Stroud has much better size and a better arm. Stroud also has very good accuracy, which is one of his big things. Young had some injury scares, and I don't think is as good of a passer as Stroud is. Young is a bit more athletic and has a little bit more ability to make plays with his legs, but you can't sleep on Stroud's rushing ability. He showed that in the college football playoff this year, and I would take Stroud over Young all day. I was surprised to see Young go ahead of Stroud. After the past few months, I thought there were some talks and Stroud would slip into the number 1 spot, and the Panthers ended up going with Young, and I just don't think Young is big enough. Like I said, the injury concerns are scary, as Stroud was very healthy at Ohio State, and his size, he just has a good QB1 size. Stroud is the better quarterback in my opinion, and I would have taken Stroud in a heartbeat over Young, but that's what the Panthers decided to do, which is why I asked the question, because I want to see what you guys think. I would take Stroud any day of the week. Like I said, better arm, better size, and just looks more like a QB1 than Young does. For their other picks, Mingo had good yard after catch, strong receiver, has the ability to make the big play. TJ Johnson's a raw outside linebacker, but he's very strong and can create some pressure. That's a guy they think they can do more with than what they've seen so far. And then my favorite pick for them, Chandler Zavala, stellar pick in the 4th round. Good quick guard for his size, finishes blocks and pushes defenders back. He's got a good football IQ and has shown ability to take on double teams a lot in college when he was at NC State. He played 3 years at Fairmont State, a D2 in West Virginia before transferring to NC State. Started every game this year at NC State and showed very well at the D1 level, which people questioned whether that would translate. He played just 1 year of football in high school, which is why it's so impressive that he's good as he is right now. Played soccer, and I think, honestly, he will be a starting guard there for many years to come, and he'll earn a ton of accolades in the NFL. I mean, moves very well for as big as he is. An offensive guard at right guard, I think he will just be stellar. He was first team All ACC, and like I said, huge fan of his. Impressive to see what he did coming from a Division II school, especially only playing 1 year of high school football. I love that pick for them in the 4th round, and I think he'll be their starting guard in the future. Now the New Orleans Saints, I give them a B. Shout out to my brother-in-law, Marcus, big Saints fan. But Brian Bresee, defensive tackle in the 1st round from Clemson. Isaiah Foskey, 2nd round pick, defensive end from Notre Dame. Kendre Miller, running back from TCU in the 3rd round. Nick Saldiveri, offensive tackle from Old Dominion in the 4th round. Jake Hayner, quarterback from Fresno State in the 4th round. Jordan Howden, safety from Minnesota in the 5th round. And A.T. Perry, wide receiver from Florida State in the 6th round. Bresee was a great pick in my opinion. I think he's being overlooked, and a lot of people kind of are calling it a bad pick. He's got great size, moves well, can fit into many different sets, and is a very versatile, to move across that D line. There's some injury concerns, which is why people are scared of him. But I think if he can stay healthy in the NFL, he's going to be a star defensive lineman. Then they also added to their defense, getting Isaiah Foskey, who's a good pass rusher with some upside and finishes tackles. He's a freak athlete, high IQ player, and he's consistent. Was the captain on the Notre Dame defense, and that's very impressive as Notre Dame's kind of a good football program and has been the past, as long as anybody's been alive. Kendre Miller's a solid running back who makes defenders miss. Ability to make the home run play with his tough speed. He's a tough runner, stays on his feet through hits, and has good balance. I like that pick a lot for them. And that'll be a kind of underrated pick that we don't hear as much as we should about, but he'll make plays. Being drafted in the 3rd round, they have high hopes for him, and him alongside Alvin Kamara is a great fit. Jake Hayner's a solid quarterback who I think can serve as a decent backup for them. Showed well the Senior Bowl, but I really like him, and I think he's a solid quarterback who, as it is, he was the best quarterback the Senior Bowl, but the Senior Bowl quarterbacks did not show well at all. But like I said, he's solid. I think he did really, really well in college, and it'll be interesting to see, what happens in New Orleans because Derek Carr ain't the greatest. So it'll be interesting to see what Hayner can do. And then A.T. Perry's a big wide receiver who's expected to be drafted before the 6th round. It's kind of surprising to see him fall that far, but can't hurt to take him in the 6th round. It'll be interesting to see what he does. Now, moving on, the last team in the South, Tampa Bay Bucks. Khalija Kancey, defensive tackle from Pittsburgh with their 1st round pick. Cody Mauch, offensive tackle from North Dakota State, their 2nd round pick. Yaya Diaby, defensive end from Louisville, their 3rd round pick. Servosia Dennis, inside linebacker from Pittsburgh at their 5th round pick. Payne Durham, tight end from Purdue with another 5th round pick. Josh Hayes, cornerback from Kansas State with their 6th round pick. Trey Palmer, wide receiver from Nebraska with their 6th round pick. And Jose Ramirez, outside linebacker from Eastern Michigan with their other 6th. I think Kancey is a very solid pick who is great against the pass and run, shoves offensive linemen in the backfield, and is very, very strong at the point of attack. Has a great first step and a high motor as well. Doesn't quit on plays and likes to tackle. So that's a really good pick for them, and I think he'll be their starting defensive tackle for many years in Tampa Bay. Cody Mauch is a knee blocker who likes to bury his defenders, played guard and center at the Senior Bowl, so showed some versatility. I think he'll play guard there, and I think he's exactly what they want in terms of a mean offensive lineman. Kind of reminds you a little bit of Ryan Jensen, angry, mean, and just loves football. Yaya Diaby has great length and will be a rotational pass rusher for them in year 1. He's quick, like I said, with good length and can slip blocks. It'll be a few years before we see him kind of get to his peak, but I think Diaby with a 3rd round pick is very good by them, and he'll be rotational this year. In the next few years, maybe be on the field a little bit more consistently, but I like that pick a lot for them. And the last pick I want to talk about, Trey Palmer, has some upside with tons of speed and can make the home run play. Not a lot of people are huge fans of him. A lot of people say he's more worried about himself and his stats at Nebraska this year, but like I said, Trey Palmer has home run speed, can make the big play, and honestly, depending on what goes on with them at quarterback, maybe Baker, I think Trey Palmer can get on the field a little bit early on. I think this is going to be a rebuilding year for them, so they'll try to see what they have. Other receivers can get traded as well. If that happens, I definitely think we'll see Trey Palmer out on the field for them. Jumping into the last division, the NFC, The NFC West, we'll start with the Arizona Cardinals, who I gave a B+. First round, they took Paris Johnson, Jr., offensive tackle from Ohio State. Second round, they took B.J. Ojulari, outside linebacker from LSU. Third round, they took Garrett Williams, cornerback from Syracuse. Third round, they also took Michael Wilson, wide receiver from Stanford. Fourth round, they took John Gaines, guard from UCLA. Fifth round, they took Clayton Tune, quarterback from Houston. Other fifth round pick, they took Owen Papao, inside linebacker, Auburn. Sixth round, they took Keitrell Clark, cornerback from Louisville. And the other sixth round pick, they took Dante Stills, defensive tackle from West Virginia. Johnson was the best tackle in the NFL draft. Great length and upper body strength, moves well for his size, finishes blocks. And a lot of people were kind of critiquing their draft, but they got the best tackle in the draft. And he could be blocking for Caleb Williams next year. I know many people think Kyler Murray, but I'll talk a little bit more about that in a second. Ojulari, with their next pick, is a great pass rusher and can make plays against the run, has a good range and pursuit, will be a great fit for that team. Losing edge rusher and J.J. Watt, and were already not great against the pass, didn't have a good pass rush. Adding Ojulari will be very good for them. Garrett Williams is a stud, disciplined corner who plays physical and aggressive. He has great technique as a corner and also finishes his tackles, keeps receivers in front of him, and finishes plays, doesn't let plays go by him. Huge fan of this pick for them, and I think he could help them, very much help them in the next few years, just kind of losing some secondary players over the past few years, and their secondary always being banged up. Williams' injury is a scare, towards ACL, but I think Williams is a great pick, solid corner, who was getting mocked the first round at this time last year for this year's draft. So like that pick for them. And then the last pick I want to talk about, Stills for West Virginia. He was a very solid defensive lineman at West Virginia. I think he could make some noise for them in a few years. Was very good at West Virginia, made a ton of plays, and was one of their best players over the past 3 years, honestly. But kind of going back to what I was talking about at the beginning of the Arizona Cardinals, if the Cardinals have the number one pick in next year's draft, do you guys think they should take Caleb Williams? I said yes immediately. Williams has legitimately been the best quarterback in college football the past 2 years. He has elite arm talent, plays extremely well under pressure and can do it all, moves well for, a pocket passer, but not true pocket passer. I mean, he can do it all. Can extend the play with his legs, like I said, a lot of running talent, and kind of everybody's scared if you lose Kyler Murray, you're not going to have a quarterback who can run, but Caleb Williams can run, not as well as Kyler Murray, but Williams runs well. Kyler Murray seems to have some maturity issues, and this isn't the same front office who drafted Kyler Murray. I know some Cardinals fans may think he's their franchise quarterback, but I think Williams will be their franchise quarterback, and there's way more upside with him. Murray's only played in one playoff game where he was dreadful, throwing for 137 yards and 2 interceptions. Wins aren't always a quarterback stat, and it's early in his career. Things haven't been right for him, and this team is just not what they've thought. When they added D-Hop, everybody thought they were going to take a major step forward, and they never really did. Kyler Murray also got hurt. Who knows how he will be coming back from that injury. And Williams draws a lot of comparisons to Mahomes, and it's for good reason. He can throw some insane passes on the run, put them right on the money. And ever since he's been the starting quarterback, whether it was at Oklahoma or USC, he has been a walking highlight film with his throws. I mean, literally very similar to Mahomes. And if it was my opinion, and in my opinion, if I had the number one pick, I would be taking Caleb Williams in a heartbeat and trying to trade Kyler Murray, because I just don't think that Kyler Murray and the Cardinals will have the best future together. Moving on to the next team, the Los Angeles Rams. I gave them a B-. They took Steve Avila, offensive guard from Washington, their second round pick. Byron Young, defensive end from Tennessee, with their third round pick. Kobe Turner, defensive tackle from Wake Forest, their other third round pick. Stetson Bennett, quarterback from Georgia, with their fourth round pick. Nick Hampton, outside linebacker from App State, with their fifth round pick. Warren McClendon, offensive tackle from Georgia, with their other fifth round pick. Davis Allen, tight end from Clemson, with another fifth round pick. Puka Nakua, wide receiver from BYU, with their other fifth round pick. Trevius Hodges Tomlinson, cornerback from TCU, with their sixth round pick. O'Shawn Mathis, defensive end from Nebraska, with another sixth round pick. Zach Evans, running back from Ole Miss, with another sixth round pick. Ethan Evans, punter from Wingate, with their 7th round pick. Jason Taylor, the second safety from Oklahoma State, with another 7th round pick. And Desjuan Johnson, defensive end from Toledo, with their last 7th round pick. Ton of picks for them, no first round picks, but I think they did well for what they had. Avila is a powerful blocker who will step in to a great fit for offensive linemen for them as they need help losing a lot of guys. I think he'll fit in well, and he'll be a starter, so it's good to get a starter with your second round pick. Byron Young is a great pass rusher who's disruptive, gets in the backfield all the time, has an explosive first step. Kobe Turner is an underside defensive lineman, but plays flexible, can get around blocks, and kind of make plays. Stetson Bennett has good accuracy as a passer, and he showed a lot of great plays in college, but he's older, and I'm not sure if his play will transfer to the NFL. Kind of reminds me of a star college quarterback who doesn't turn out in the NFL, kind of like AJ McCarron, but we'll still see on that. I also like the Warren McClendon pick in the 5th round. Tough, fundamentally sound offensive lineman who showed well for the best team in the country the past 2 years. And then my last pick I want to talk about for them, Zach Evans in the 6th round is a great pick. Coming out of high school was supposed to be the guy, transferred from TCU after a few years to Ole Miss, downhill runner, breaks tackles all the time. Very good in the pass game, has big play speed, can make the home run play. I really like that pick for them. In the 6th round, doesn't hurt to take a chance there. And this is the guy who, coming out of college, a lot of people thought would be a Bijan Robinson or one of those guys, kind of top pick, maybe first 2-round pick in the NFL draft in 3 years. But moving on to the San Francisco 49ers, they took Jair Brown, safety from Penn State, with their 3rd-round pick, Jake Moody, kicker from Michigan, with their other 3rd-round pick, Cameron Latou, tight end from Alabama, with their other 3rd-round pick, Darrell Luter, cornerback from South Alabama, with their 5th-round pick, Robert Beal Jr., defensive end from Georgia, with their other 5th-round pick, D. Winters, inside linebacker from TCU, with their 6th-round pick, Braden Willis, tight end from Oklahoma, with the 7th-round pick, Ronnie Bell, wide receiver from Michigan, with another 7th-round pick, and then Jalen Graham, outside linebacker from Purdue, with another 7th-round pick. Brown is versatile safety who can also play nickel. He'll play early on in San Francisco, and they'll need him to step up this year with them losing some stuff in the secondary. Jake Moody's a consistent kicker who will have a long career in San Francisco. Losing Robbie Gould, Moody will be the guy. Moody's very accurate. Just like I kind of said the other day with Maryland's kicker, I think Jake Moody will be the future in San Francisco as a kicker. Cameron Latu moves well and is solid inline blocker. Luter is a lanky physical corner who could flourish on this defense in a few years. We know how good their defense has been. Even losing D'Amico Ryans, I still think they'll have a good defense. And then the pick I want to talk about for them the most, the D. Winters pick. Love that pick for them. He's a great inside linebacker who excels against the run and moves really, really well. Good enough to cover running backs and tight ends. He can shoot the gaps, has power to stun blockers back, and force his way into the backfield. I think this is a great pick for them, and getting him as late as they got him will be a steal, in my opinion. I think he'll be on the field pretty early on in his career, and he's more than just a depth piece, in my opinion. Now, the last team in the NFC West, Seattle Seahawks, I gave them an A. Took Devin Witherspoon, cornerback from Illinois, with their 1st-round pick. Jackson Smith-Njigba, wide receiver from Ohio State, with their other 1st-round pick. Derek Hall, outside linebacker from Auburn, with their 2nd-round pick. Zach Charbonnet, running back from UCLA, with their other 2nd-round pick. Anthony Bradford, offensive guard from LSU, with the 4th-round pick. Cameron Young, defensive tackle from Mississippi State, with another 4th-round pick. Mike Morris, defensive end from Michigan, with a 5th-round pick. Olusegun Oluwatimi, center from Michigan, with another 5th-round pick. Jarek Reed, safety from New Mexico, with a 6th-round pick. And Kenny McIntosh, running back from Georgia, with a 7th-round pick. Witherspoon's a true number 1 cornerback, and adding him with Tariq Woolen is terrifying. I loved him, and immediately makes that secondary better. There's not much more I really need to say. He's physical, does it all, good corner, and their secondary will be stacked. Jackson Smith-Njigba was my favorite wide receiver in the draft, and I was shocked to see him fall as he did. Injury pushed him back, but he's a stellar wide receiver with crisp route running. Didn't test his 40 at the combine, whether that was injury or didn't want to show speed. Doesn't really have amazing speed, but his route running makes up for that, and he's not slow. So great wide receiver. Like I said, he was my number 1 wide receiver in this draft, so I was surprised to see him fall as far as he did. If you watched him against Utah in the Rose Bowl 2 years ago, that should be all you need to see to show what he can do on a football field. Charbonnet is a great complement to Kenneth Walker. He's got great strength and speed, and he's more of an all-around running back. Charbonnet will be the bigger back with his bigger build, and I think at the goal line, we might see him get some carries. And I really love the Oluwatimi pick. He's a steal in the 5th round. He started his career at Virginia, where he was the best center in the country. Very, very good. Transferred to Michigan. He's got great size. He's a very good pass blocker. He's a true competitor, and he blocks hard. Mean offensive lineman is what you want. And then lastly, Kenny McIntosh showed well at Georgia, was in a stacked backfield and still got on the field, showed well there, like I said. And you can't hurt to take somebody from that offense who had some success. So really like their draft, gave them an A. They were probably my favorite draft in the NFC just because they got so much. But that is it for this episode. I'm going to be back again next week. Next week, I'll probably be talking about some undrafted free agents and some other hot takes and questions around the NFL. As we're getting away from the draft and more into camp and OTAs and stuff like that, I'll be talking a little bit more about the current NFL rather than draft prospects. But that is it. Appreciate you guys for watching, and be ready to tune back in next week for another episode.